Howdy everyone, Podger here with an Age of Magic video, and in today's video we are going to do a guide on the different teams within the game. That way if you're new or you hear a team you're not too sure about, I'm going to explain it to you and what it's built of. And each team is built of what I like to call staple characters, 2 or 3 main characters that must be put in the team for it to work, and then the other slots are filled with jigsaw puzzle pieces, whatever you want to put in to try and build new compositions. So I have done a video of this in the past, but a lot has changed since then, so we'll get straight into it. And yeah. So looking at new arenas forming today, there aren't really any of the old beginner teams being used. I am still going to mention this one though. It is the Bomb Squad. It's built of Siegfried, Blood Priest, Rock, and Soothsayer. The idea of this team is that at the beginning of the turn, you freeze your enemy. You'll have a jigsaw piece puzzle character in here that will apply debuffs, and then Soothsayer will follow up by blowing up the enemy, and then Blood Priest will trigger the mark Soothsayer places on the enemy, doing extra damage, almost annihilating 3-4 of the characters on the enemy team. This team isn't used so much these days simply because it's been replaced by the Nuke Squad, and when you're building this team, people kind of just go for the Nuke Squad if they're able to. The only time people build this squad is if they can't get Blood Emperor, who is kind of a difficult champion to get, but that is the idea of the Bomb Squad. The next squad is the Barbarian Squad, and this seems to be the team dominating new arenas. It's almost replaced Trinity Squads and Rogue Squads. I've looked at a few, haven't looked at all arenas. Maybe there are some of those old teams, but I'm not going to go into them because they will fall off very quickly. So the Barbarian Squad is built of Danae, Swamp Killer, and Balara. These are the 3 staple characters for a Barbarian Squad. You have to use these characters. Otherwise, you weaken the Barbarian Squad greatly. Danae, just because of her leadership ability. Balara, paired with Danae, can lock down characters like there's no tomorrow. Swamp Killer, with the Rage stack, just does insane damage, can lock down characters, can slow the whole... She's got just everything. And with the Boss Mark as well, she can do a lot of damage. Your 2 spots available at the bottom can be filled with a multiple range of characters. You can get Egon, Silver Moon, Tiles, Aratar. I haven't really seen people use Aratar, but you could use him. You got Arican Shadow. He can be put in there. Some people even use Sacrif Magnus. There is a whole bunch of combinations you can use with these 3 characters, but these are the staple characters. So if you're building a Barbarian squad, chuck these 3 in and mix and match how you please and come up with something. There's been a lot of teams out there already. Maybe you can come up with something new. Next up is your Abaddon squad. Now, quite frankly, no one is using this team. But why am I chucking it in here? The Abaddon squad is built of Abaddon, Balthazar, Succubus, and Zart. This team does have some use in the game, and that is when Doomgates comes around. It is a dark-themed team. It is very strong, has good sustain. You can chuck Azariel in the last spot, or a melee damager. Jag, Hound, someone like that. They do a lot of support damage with Abaddon's leadership ability. But yeah, the only place she would really use this competitively is in the Doomgates raid when that comes around. Other than that, it's not an arena efficient team. Maybe when the demons, because it has been said that demons will get a buff in the future, maybe then they will become relevant, but do not build this team in the hopes of getting far in arena or tournament. Next up, we have the Undead Army. Now, this is primarily built of Blood Emperor, Blood Mage, and Blood Priest, the 3 Blood Brothers. They can do a lot. They have... The Blood Emperor is obviously the leader of the Undead, offers a lot of support to Undead units. Blood Mage, initiative increase, debuff of stats, anti-healing. Blood Priest can do a lot of damage. He's probably one of the best damage-dealing healers out there. Can heal himself and allies, but it comes at a cost with each one. The bottom 2 characters, you're using undead characters here. The only character I never see used is Arican Spear. These 2 spots swap between the other 3 characters. So you've got Arican Shadow, Arican Guard, and Arican Axoa. Sometimes Arican Axoa, honestly, he offers nothing to a team but being a pure glass cannon. He just does a lot of damage. And when you mix that with Blood Emperor's ability, that can force every undead target to auto-attack a single unit. Arican Axoa can do a lot of damage. Hurricane Guard if you're looking for a more tanky build, and Hurricane Shadow. Honestly, he's probably the one character you chuck on here as a permanent character as well. He's quite good with Blood Emperor. So that is the Undead Army. Following that, we have the Nuke Squad. Now, this is probably one of the few teams in the game that is set on every character to use. I don't see how you could swap any character out. This is a more potent version of the Bomb Squad because it does a significant amount of damage and it is far quicker. Blood Emperor, master of applying debuffs to the enemy, follow Blood Mage, a lot of debuffs. Rock with the freeze, which counts as a debuff as well. Soothsayer comes out with the bomb, and Blood Priest just wipes out the rest of the units. The only time this team loses is if the enemy is faster than them, or the enemy runs a Mabe and can lock down Soothsayer and prevent the bomb from going off. Obviously, you need pretty decent characters with Mabe as well. You can't just run a Mabe on any old team and beat this. You need to run decent characters. This team, for example, fails horribly against the Archons, because once the barrier goes up, it gets rid of a lot of your damage. But other than that, this team is very, very dangerous. So if you don't have a Archon squad and you see this in a tournament, stay away from it, because you are either going to lose or you're going to lose some characters. Next up is the Dwarf squad. You don't really see much of this team anymore. I have a feeling, though, it will make a bit of a comeback when the Dark Elves are released. This team does surprisingly well, and not even surprisingly, very well against teams that have overhealing in them. Every time a enemy heals, Chorin gets a damage buff or a damage stack for his ultimate ability, and he can almost wipe out entire teams if he gets enough of those stacks. Their team fell from grace with the release of Magnus. They used to be decent against the Archons because of the dodging. The dodging, when an enemy dodges, all dwarves are healed. Magnus not being able to be critically hit, therefore unable to dodge, pretty much ruined this whole team. That one character threw the hardest character in the game under the bus, essentially. So with the release of Dark Elves, I have a feeling this team will make a comeback. Chorin, however, I mean, it's getting to the point in the game since his release. Obviously, new players still a long way off, but it's getting to the point in the game where people are at least unlocking him. And at 5 stars, he's still usable. So if you've got him, level up your dwarves. Maybe he will have a comeback when the Dark Elves are released. Not a horrible team, just literally one character destroyed their relevance. So hopefully a team like the Dark Elves comes out and brings them back into the light. Another team out there is the Beastman team, and the 2 staple characters of this team are Sun Wukong and Suna. Now, this is a really interesting team because there's no real permanent Beastman team. Beastman team don't build the team. Normally, these 2 characters are thrown into another team and complete the team that way. So normally the team is called Beastman because you could throw a rock in there and then it does predominantly come the Beastman team, but you'll normally see Wukong and Suna paired together. Rock occasionally, he's a great hero. What this faction is missing is a leadership ability, and honestly, the other characters of the faction. I feel like once they get those 2 things, this team is going to skyrocket, because these 2 characters alone, paired with a lot of other characters, become very dangerous. Suna is an assassin, but specializes mostly in tanking. She can be very frustrating to verse because she dodges like crazy. She's very quick, can remove taunt. Wukong just gets stronger as the battle goes on, does a lot of critical damage, can't be suppressed, so his damage ramps up as well. And he can guarantee himself a critical strike as well off his A1 or his special 1. And his special 2 is an AoE, so it's a bit wasted. If his AoE gave him a guaranteed critical strike, and then he could critically strike with his single target special, then he would do a lot of damage. He could wipe out people. So that's probably why they didn't do it. But yeah, so these 2 characters, Beastman squads. This is what have they been thrown into? And they've been used with dwarfs before, the Golden Army. They've been used. They're used with wild elves at the moment as well, I'm pretty sure. You can see them anywhere, really. They're good characters to have. If you've got these characters, you haven't done wrong. They're going to come in use at some point in your life. So that's the Beastman staple characters, but they mainly get thrown into other teams to strengthen them. You do have the high elves, however, they're honestly not used that much, if at all. There maybe are some people that really love them and use them. They're not a very competitive team because they're just weak, unfortunately. Their kits are cool and they sound good on paper, but when you use them, they just lack a lot of stuff. You have Oraheim, Howdy, and Mizu. Those are your staple characters for the high elves. You can throw a bunch of other characters in here. I've seen druids in here. You have Daimyo is probably one of the least characters you'll see in a high elves team because he is just a horrible character. He benefits two different factions but doesn't really strengthen them at all. That's why Oraheim is run as a leader instead of the actual boss of the faction. If you want to build this team, go for it. It's not going to benefit you very much at all and is probably a waste. These are probably characters I would work on if you've got nothing else to work on at all. Mizu, however, I would put some effort into. People have found some uses for him. His dot ability, where if an enemy is hit with an ability, there's a chance of a dot being placed on them. Half that chance if they're not a high elf ally, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. That dot can do a lot of damage. A lot. Especially when you're running a full AoE team and ramping up those dots real quickly. They can wipe out characters. Unfortunately, again, the team is diminished a lot by Archons. So don't put effort into these characters. That's my personal opinion. Do whatever you want. If you were going to put effort into it, Mizu is the one to go for. Next up, you have the Wild Elves, who have proven to be quite a decent faction. With Gloriana coming out, she's quite a potent healer. Unfortunately, she cannot heal herself, so she normally needs to be paired up with, or she needs to be paired up with Colonel. Colonel's a great support tank. He isn't a tank himself. He can taunt like one character by chance. Not even a guaranteed taunt. But you need him because he can hide casters and healers, even though Gloriana goes into the battle hidden already. When he does that ability, he heals those characters. So that is the only healing she gets unless you run another healer like Lucky. I have seen these teams run with Lucky as a support healer. She does weaken Gloriana a tiny percent. 20% actually, to be precise. Because for every wild elf on the team, Gloriana gets a 20% chance of landing her ability. So any wild elf not on the team is 20% lost. So I would run this with a full Wild Elf team. Are people using it? Yeah, I've seen people use it. I've seen people even beat Archons with this setup. But it's not an efficient team. Lots of RNG. And it can go downhill pretty quickly. But it's not a horrible team. You do need Gloriana and you do need Tiliana as well, though. If you can farm them, go for it. You need them for the Dark Elf boss coming up. So get on that. Because the Dark Elves are probably going to be decent enough to actually farm. Especially at the moment, they're a bit of a not really anything impressive, but I have a feeling once their boss comes out. Anyway, we'll talk about Dark Elves soon. So Wild Elves, these are the two staple characters. Gloriana, Colonel, they both help each other. They both do a wonderful job, and you mix and match the rest from there. Up to you what you guys want to do. Nearly at the end, we have the Dark Elves. Now, I've left Loki out because I feel like Loki is not going to be a staple champion for the Dark Elves. At the moment, they're quite meh. There's nothing super about them at the moment because they are lacking their leader. They need their leader. If their leader is good enough, if their leader is artist level, which she should be because she is an artist level event, then this team is going to be very, very powerful. Azariel or Drake, I feel like, are staple characters for this team because Drake, the enemy is going to focus your Azariel. That's just the way the AI works. They will primarily focus your healers. But with Drake on the team, Azariel essentially becomes a tank. The only time Drake is a tank is when he uses his gas ability, where he puts a debuff on the enemy that damages them for shield, and hides all Dark Elf allies. That is the only time Drake becomes the main focus. Other than that, it is Azariel who takes less damage when Drake is on the field. Roynar, I don't feel like he's going to be removed from the team. No way. Roynar is probably one of the best champions in the game by a decent proportion. He can do a lot. He can remove initiative from the enemy, completely empty their bars. He can apply the boss mark. He can remove buffs and remove buffs, not debuffs. He does a lot of damage. He is insane. So I feel like these will be the 3 staple characters of the Dark Elves along with the boss, and then you mix and match the last slot. Probably you won't run anything else other than a Dark Elf, but we are still missing 3 Dark Elves. We're missing the boss, who will become the staple. You're missing the melee damager. No, Roynar's the melee damager, isn't he? You're missing the caster. Nope, caster there. Range damager and rogue. That's who you're missing. Yeah. Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he's the melee damager. Either way, that's who we're missing. We're missing 3 characters. We're going to get... I'm pretty sure the boss will be the next one released, and then the other 2 after that. So those are the Dark Elves. Probably worth investing into because they will be strong. Their primary strength will be healing, and that's why Troran will be strong against them. Hopefully. They might just be ridiculously overpowered and nothing's going to stop them, but I feel like there will be some counter to them. Lastly, we have everyone's favorite team, the Golden Army. It's run by Artis, Magnus, Tyros, Sakrif. You will always run these characters. There is very, very little time you will remove one of these characters. And the last spot is filled with any character. Almost any character. We've seen Lucky, Balthazar, Maeve. At the moment, Roynar is the strongest one. Who else? I'm sure there's a bunch of characters that have been thrown in here. It doesn't really matter. It's just these 4. These 4 make it. Artis, speed boost to Archons. Normally lets Tyros go first. Can reduce initiative. Ignore armor. Passive on death. Reduce initiative as well. Lots of damage. Magnus, just a stupidly strong tank. Can taunt when your enemies are in critical HP. That's his passive. That has no cooldown. He will just taunt. Can't be critically hit. Can self-heal by removing debuffs. Doesn't matter. He could have 1 debuff, even though it's 10% health per debuff. For some reason, will go to full HP. You got Sakrif, who, when Archons are critically hit, they get a dodge buff. So she's in there. She can remove debuffs and she can prevent debuffs from being applied. Oh, she's a tremendously great healer. This is the Golden Army. Mix and match whatever you want in here. You'll probably get good results. That is the final team I wanted to show you. There are probably some I've missed. Some I've purposely missed because I don't feel like they're relevant anymore. People still may use them, but if they do, they will be thrown out the window very quickly at any chance they get. So those are the teams in the game at the moment. Like I said, each team has staple characters. You build around those. That's how people technically, or most of the time, build their teams. They find compositions that work and then put in little pieces until they find something that works really well. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll answer it to the best of my ability. And wherever you are in the world, until next time, please take care of yourself.